Hello, my name is Roxy, and today I will share a story of why I hate video games. Since I was in high school, I wanted to meet the perfect guy and have my first true love. So I've always kept it for the right guy. I did not meet many guys to find my future boyfriend. All the guys at my school were so ugly, and since I knew them in diapers, I couldn't imagine myself dating any of them. I always walked around different schools except for mine just to find a perfect, handsome boyfriend. But I was so worried that I will just start crushing on some asshole without getting to know him and get disappointed. So I had to find a way that will make me meet new guys. I decided to get myself expelled. I started skipping classes and acting rude with teachers. I even started fights at school just to get kicked out of school and make my parents transform me into another. And that's what happened. My parents couldn't find me a school in town, so they had to put me in a school that was pretty far from home, and I had to take 4 buses to get there every morning. My parents were so pissed at me that they stopped driving me to school anymore. And of course, I couldn't just ask them to transfer me from my former school just because it had no handsome guys. So I just used 4 buses every morning to get there. On my first day of school, I got a new locker, and when the bell rang, I closed it, and as I walked away from it, I back-pumped a guy just like in the movies. And guess what? He was so freaking handsome. He said, "Whoop, be careful," and smirked with this cute little laugh and went to class. I just now saw him, and I swear, I am telling you, he is my crush. I went to class and sat on an empty seat. The teacher came in and asked me to stand out to introduce myself, so I did. And then that cute guy from the hallway got in late to class. I am so lucky. He is my classmate. The teacher said I can sit, and when I walking up to my seat, he bumped into me again and said, "Whoop, I told you to be careful." So I apologized shyly and sat down. It was my first day in school, and I couldn't focus at all in class. I knew he did it on purpose, but it made me so nervous, so I decided to ignore him. After the class was done, I went to the cafeteria, and he was walking next to me, and I knew he was planning on bumping into me again, so I stepped back while he tried to do that. So he said, "Whoa, don't you enjoy our cute bumps?" I said, "I do, but I wasn't sure if it's just me being clumsy or you doing that on purpose." So he shook my hand and said, "I'm Martin. Nice to meet you." So nervously replied, "Roxy," and that's how it all started. Martin and I started spending time at lunch together. After rainy days, we went to his house and did homework together, and he offered me to try that game that he has been playing lately, PUBG, which I did. And I have to admit, I enjoyed playing it. Anyway, so we started meeting after school and did everything together, homework, PUBG, and even worked out together. I felt so happy that I became so close to such a great guy. One evening, Martin and I were in his room playing PUBG, and when we ate chicken dinner, we got so happy because the round was not easy. But we were so glad that we've got lots of kills, which ended up with a kiss. He kissed me and then apologized. I told him he had nothing to apologize for, so he kissed me again. After that, it was added to our daily routine, and slowly everyone knew about the gamer couple at school. Kids at school said we looked good together, and that we were special because we were both so similar. We were together for 7 months, and then one time I saw him texting someone which looked suspicious, so I asked him who he was texting. He said it was Mark, his friend, so I just let it go, because I'm not really a jealous person after all. One night, I was home bored and felt like playing PUBG a bit. So I texted Martin and asked if he's sleeping, but he did not reply. So I assumed he is sleeping because it was 3:30 a.m. I decided to play one round by myself, and when I logged in, you won't believe what I saw. Martin was online and already in a match. I have his friends on my list of friends as well, but none of them were online. So I thought that maybe he is just playing by himself, so I didn't make a scene about it. But I did spy on him for a while after that. I logged in every night to check if he was online, and he was online every single night, ignoring my messages while playing. I started to have a bad feeling in my stomach, so I decided to go straight up to his face and ask him about all this. The next day after school, I went to his house and his mom opened the door. She said that Martin was showering and that I can wait for him in his room. I went upstairs and entered his room. His phone was on his bed. I looked at it and saw that 𝗕𝗔𝗦𝗬𝗓 was turned on, so I took it and started comparing his friends to mine. All of them matched, except for one. I saw a very friendly chat on the game with that person. Martin finished his shower and could have come in at any second, so I put the phone down as it was and lied down to see how he'll react. When he came in, he said, "Hey," and continued drying his hair with a towel and went to his closet. He took out the pajamas he said he'd never wear in front of me so that I won't dislike him. He asked if we had homework. I said, "No." Then he asked coldly, "Then why did you come? What the hell's wrong with him? Isn't he happy that I came?" I don't want to ruin everything just because of some stupid feeling, so I had to find a way to check who was the person he played with, and the only way was by checking his phone while it was turned on. One night, I told my parents I was going to have a sleepover at a friend's house. That night, I went to Martin's house when he was online. He wasn't asleep, so he'd probably be the one to open the door for me. So I prepared the backyard's ladder and knocked on the door loudly and immediately ran to the ladder, climbed it, and went in his room from the window. And as I guessed, his phone was thrown on his bed with 𝗕𝗔𝗬𝗓 open. I took his phone, went down the ladder, and hid in the backyard. I made sure I didn't lock the screen by mistake. And as I guessed, he was playing with that mysterious person, and what I felt was right. That person was a girl. She was also calling him babe. I recorded that, and I told her to meet me at a cafe the next day. I stayed on the street all night and cried my eyes out. I didn't go to school the next day and met her in that cafe in the afternoon. She came to the cafe thinking she was about to meet Martin. I saw a girl looking for someone at the entrance, so I realized that it was her. I approached her and asked her, "How do you know Martin?" She said, "Excuse me? Who are you?" So I said, "I'm his girlfriend." "Who are you?" She said, "I'm Joanna, his girlfriend." I didn't want to believe what I heard. My heart dropped and just walked away from there. I went to Martin's house, and when he saw my swollen face, he started asking why I was crying and what happened. "I love you. Don't cry," he added. I told him to go check how Joanna's doing. Her nose was probably broken. In shock, he said, "What? How did you find her? What did you do to her?" "So that's how boys cheat nowadays, huh?" I asked ironically. He said, "You loser. All I needed was to get you to do my homework to get my grades higher. I have no time to stay one more year in high school. Happy to know the truth? If you didn't dig too far, you wouldn't get hurt this way. I was not planning on leaving you by letting you know I have someone else, but you did this to yourself." I lied there on the ground, crying my eyes out. The whole school found out about our breakup. One day, someone asked me why Martin and I broke up. I thought a lot about whether or not I should embarrass him in front of everyone. Anyway, I decided to share it and let the rumor spread. So I said, "He cheated on me with some from 𝗕𝗔𝗬𝗓 named Joanna. Be careful, guys. Maybe you're all dating her at the same time, and you'll never know 'cause she's a snake." Mark, his best friend, approached me and whispered to me that Joanna is Martin's half-sister from his father. I got so confused. Why would they both say they're dating? Maybe she's his stepsister, really? I went to Martin once again to find out the truth and why he lied to me. So after school, I went to his house before he arrived there and waited for him in his room. When he came up to his room, he told me to leave, but I insisted on staying and finding out the truth. "I have a girlfriend, so leave," he said. So I said that I know she's his half-sister and asked about why he lied to me. He was shocked that I know, and with tears in his eyes, he cried saying that he loves me so badly that he felt extremely selfish that he didn't want me to play with his friends. He said that he feels like he can kill any guy that just simply says hi to me. "I know, I'm obsessed," he said. "So please go. Joanna started playing 𝗕𝗔𝗬𝗓 not long ago. So I decided to spend some time with a sister that I barely know. I love you, and probably will always do, and you'll get hurt. So leave." For some reason, I believed his words, and his tears were so genuine that I started crying too. I told him that I'll delete all his friends from my list and that I'll play with him only. I truly didn't need anyone else. But he had to promise he'll work on his anger issue. Right now, Martin and I are engaged. We just graduated, but Love can be real sometimes, even though it might seem too early. But if you feel like it's right, do not give it up, and don't let anyone stand between you.
Hi there, I'm Lucy. I'm here to confess my darkest secret. When I was young, I developed a creepy obsession with watching people sleep. I had a collection of used socks. I always took not a pair, but a single one from each of my victims. It gave me an adrenaline rush to imagine them in the morning, looking for their missing sock, not knowing that an obsessed girl spent the night there. It began as an innocent hobby, but then it went far over the edge. I always felt so powerful when I stared at them. They look so peaceful, thinking they're alone and safe. When I sat and observed them for hours, I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't help it. When I stayed over at my friend's home, I stayed up all night just staring at them. When we were at school, I saw them studying, having fun, and that was okay. But at night, they were mine. Everyone in town was mine. At night, I didn't have to share anything with anyone. I controlled everything. I owned their most private moments. There was that occasional disgusting moment when someone woke up. They broke the spell and it made me want to throw up. That's when I had to come up with a pathetic lie, and I lost interest in that person forever. Since I didn't sleep at night, I always hid in the bathroom during school time and slept there. I've memorized every class of every hour at school, so I knew which classrooms were free and when, so I could sleep there too. The rest of the time, I walked through the halls like a ghost with my headphones on, waiting, hoping that night came so I could continue fulfilling my dream. It's ironic, right? That I had to watch people sleep so I could dream awake. My obsession went on for years, and it'd become a routine. And as time went by, it was harder and harder to satisfy this strange need. I already knew everyone in town. I needed a new challenge, a new possession. And my prayers were heard. One morning, new neighbors arrived. I watched them from my window in silence. I studied them. I always study to wake people. Their pitiful jokes. Their voices, their smiles, their lame conversation. It's all a scheme. When they slept, they revealed their true selves to me. I could tell right away that the parents had trouble sleeping. They looked like they worked too much, tired, with heavy eye bags. But their son? Tommy. There's something about him. Something unusual. He looked shy and not exactly annoyed, but gone. From a different world. He's around my age, so I knew that a lot of teenagers acted like that. But Tommy? For some reason, he seemed different. That night, I waited for the lights to go out and went directly to his room. I stared at him for a long time. Watching new people sleep for the first time gave me a special thrill. Tommy was different, as I predicted. His lips were tight and his hands were closed in fists. But his breathing was heavy, and his eyes moved under his eyelids. I knew he was sleeping, but he was tense at the same time. I immediately felt like I've known him forever. He was not like the rest, and now he was mine. I touched his hair, and he didn't move. He seemed so amazingly fragile. I stood up and walked around his room. All his clothes and books that were in boxes that morning had been already put in place. Tommy was a neat boy. I looked on the floor but found no used socks. That was strange. Who doesn't have a pair of used socks lying around? You're mysterious, Tommy. You're provoking me, even in your dreams. Okay, challenge accepted. I opened the door and went out to the hall. The house was quiet and dark, but I knew it by heart, since I used to watch the previous neighbors sleep. I got inside the bathroom and searched for the laundry bag. The first thing I grabbed was Tommy's dad's underwear. I was disgusted, but I kept on looking. There were more than a couple of socks there, and I couldn't tell if they were Tommy's or not. I sniffed them with my eyes closed, trying to focus. Is this your smell, Tommy? I wondered. And suddenly, I heard noises. Dang! Someone woke up. Disgusting. The footsteps were getting close to the bathroom. Oh no! I couldn't see awake people during the night. It was painful. I heard the doorknob and jumped to the bathroom to hide. still holding the sock in my hand. I didn't want to, but I had to look to see who it was, and I sighed. Thank God it wasn't Tommy. I wouldn't be able to watch him again if he were. Luckily, it's just his dad. I held back the need to throw up as I saw him awake. It was as if someone slapped me in the face in the middle of my dream. I was having a hard time breathing. After he left, I rushed back to Tommy's room in despair, only catching back my breath as I watched him sleep. I looked at the sock in my hand, and it reminded me of his dad. I released it with revulsion and cleaned my hand on my clothes. I would have to take my souvenir the following night. I crossed him at school in the halls, but I ignored him. I saw him standing next to his locker. Some guys were talking to him. Some girls, too. I didn't mind. I didn't really get jealous of awake people. I knew that Tommy is mine. But for some reason, I began to yearn for the night. The hours turned long as I felt the need to see him, to touch him, to possess him. That night when the lights went off, I rushed to his room. He was already asleep. "Hi, Tommy," I whispered as I stared at him. I looked through the window for a moment, and suddenly, I heard it. "Hi," he said. It was too soft, but he said it. I'm sure of it. I heard people talking in their sleep before, but this was not just people. This was Tommy. My precious Tommy. "How are you?" I asked him. "Fine," he said, in the most beautiful voice I've ever heard. I was in heaven. I kneeled down next to him and crossed my hands like I was praying, and I realized I was praying to him. He's mine. He belonged to no other. "How was school today?" I asked him. "Boring," he said, and the corner of his lips turned into a dim smile. We kept talking for hours. He was the most interesting person I've ever met. He was so easy to talk to. I opened my heart to him, and so did he. Time flew so fast, I didn't even realize the sun was rising. I jumped when the alarm clock started to ring. I didn't want this to end. I don't want to leave you, Tommy. So, without even thinking, I shut it off. But I knew I had to go. The alarm was going to ring again, and he had to wake up. I didn't want to see him at school. I didn't want anyone to see him, talk to him, or even touch him. It made me nervous. It made me angry. I went out through the window, annoyed. I went to school and tried to ignore everyone. I usually did that, but now it was hard to breathe. I needed to see him, but at the same time, I didn't want to. I crossed him in the hall again, and I couldn't help myself. I looked up and saw him. Our eyes met. A chill ran through my body, but he blinked and continued, like he didn't know me, and I breathed again. I was glad that the awake Tommy ran along. He talked to the other students, and they all laughed about something. The girls that used to be my friends surrounded him. They wanted his attention. They could smell when a new guy might be popular right away. It was gross. If only they knew what I knew about them. I've memorized them in their sleep. They're true beings. And no matter how they acted around him or even how he responded to it, the real Tommy was untouchable. I owned him forever. I finally got one of his used socks and guarded it as a treasure. I took it back to his room every night and to school every day like a precious charm. We continued to talk every night. He confessed to me that he didn't really like school and that he didn't care if he was popular or not. I saw one version of Tommy during the day and the opposite one at night. I already knew that everyone wore masks during the day, but I was starting to know Tommy like no other person in the world, and I was thinking that something had to be done. He's my precious gift, and I wanted him to be happy. He was not happy at school. He's happy only with me. I knew every corner of the school, every secret door. I even knew that there's a small house on the property that's been abandoned for years. The perfect place. I told Tommy that night that on the following day, we're going to meet secretly in the abandoned house, and he said he was looking forward to it. That was it, Tommy. I was going to make you mine forever. The next day when I arrived at school, I slipped a paper with a secret message in his locker. I waited patiently for break time and made sure he saw it. Then I went directly to the house and waited for him. But he never showed up. What went wrong? He saw the paper. He read it. I watched him do it. I waited for a long time. Then I tried to open the door, and it was locked. From the outside. What the hell? I tried to open it again, but nothing happened. I could scream, but then I would have to explain to the authorities what I was doing there. I tried once more. Nothing. Suddenly, I started to hear people talking and laughing. I stayed still, trying to figure out what's happening. I heard random phrases. She's crazy. Just leave her there. She had it coming. She's a weirdo. And I froze, in shock. I knew exactly what's going on. Everyone knew about my obsession. I sat on the corner and grabbed my legs. I wanted to run away. And Tommy, my precious Tommy, you knew too. You were acting too. They told you about it from day one, and you acted all along. You were the only one that knew I was going to be here. And you sold me out. After a few minutes, I heard a noise on the lock. The door opened, and I saw them, all of them. My old friends, my classmates, and Tommy, standing in front of them, staring at me. Tommy was not looking at me as if he didn't know me. His expression was changed. He's accusing me in silence. I couldn't speak. I felt betrayed. You were never real, Tommy. You were never mine. One of my old friends stepped in and stared at me. Was that scary? She said, not with worry, but disdain. You felt trapped? Defenseless? I knew what she meant. My obsession had gone too far. And the worst part of it was that I didn't even care. I didn't care if they locked me up forever. I didn't care about anything. My Tommy, my life, my everything was gone. My dream turned into a nightmare. Yes, perhaps I was obsessed. But you were acting like everyone does. I looked at him, and he stared back. This was the first time that our eyes met for so long. He looked concerned. I wanted to rip his eyes apart. I thought I knew you, Tommy. I thought you were real. Everything you ever told me was a lie. I opened my heart to you, and you smashed it. As the bell rang, all the students went back to class, but not Tommy. He stayed there, looking at me. What are you staring at? I asked him, but he stayed silent. Am I entitled to be mad at him, after I made him the center of my obsession? But then again, he knew all about it from the beginning, and he kept on with it for months. He's crazier than I am. Why did he keep staring at me like that? Say something! I took out his